Jackie Pickett is the owner of a fish and chip shop in the Scottish Highlands, and she has some pretty strong Republican views. This is the video she posted to Facebook after the Queen's death.
London Bridge has fallen! Next step, ladies and gents, next step.
Honest to God.
Now, that might not be to everyone's taste, but it's harmless and people are entitled to their views. But in this atmosphere of enforced national mourning, the video managed to stir up a mob who soon surrounded her chippy. The Telegraph reported this. After the footage quickly spread across Facebook, a small crowd of outraged residents descended on the shop and hurled eggs at the premises and sprayed the windows with ketchup. There were reports that bricks were also thrown at her shop, and as the scene outside grew uglier, several police cars and vans turned up to provide the lady with a police escort to get her past the angry, jeering locals and to her home in Cromarty, a 30-minute drive away. And we have video of those scenes here. The real sort of like scenes like The Simpsons with the pitchforks. On top of all of this, as if that wasn't enough, the National Federation of Fish Fryers has revoked her membership. Aaron, what should we take from this? Should this be a lesson in being respectful when someone passes away that lots of people care about? Or do you think this is hatred whipped up by the top-down, state-enforced mourning, which can seem pretty coercive, that we're all being subjected to over the past 24 hours?
So let's try and be impartial here. And let's try and look at this objectively. You're looking at effectively two groups of people doing two sets of things. One is a woman who's made an offensive video. I can understand why that's upset people and angered them and why you'd have a hostile response to it. I get that. And then the response is one which includes what you've just shown there, but also apparently bricks being thrown at her and her shop and whatnot, and her potentially losing her livelihood. Is that an appropriate response? I would challenge any reasonable person to say, yes, that's an appropriate response. She made a stupid 15-second video, ill-judged. That's what they would say. I presume if you think a brick should be thrown at her shop, I don't know what words you'd want to use, but that's how they would characterize it. It shouldn't have been made. Should that therefore mean that she can't earn a living? She has to literally move. I find that over the top. But again, I don't understand a lot of this country anymore, Michael. I don't. And it's strange for me as someone who's half Iranian. Generally speaking, people are quite understated. You know what's interesting is after I had that video with Poppygate, you remember? And you had edits made to the video, so it somewhat misrepresented what I said. But what I said was, particularly with the Invictus Games, it's sponsored by arms dealers. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. These poor people have had huge life-changing injuries caused them, and it's being sponsored by companies which profit from war. I find that utterly ridiculous. I could have vocalized it far better and articulated it more clearly and so on, but the point still stands. Now, I think maybe a night after that or 2 nights after that, and of course there was this massive hullabaloo, I did BBC Any Questions in Devon and did the event afterwards. And by the way, Ben Bradshaw was saying I should be no-platformed, Labour MP. After the event, 2 ex-military guys got chatting to them and they were taking the mickey out of me. And we had a good chat. And they said, yeah, I agreed on this, disagreed on that. That's most people, Michael. That is most people. And you and I know this because we're in this world of the media. You've got people on the left, people on the right, people on the center. And generally speaking, the reaction you've seen there is not normal. That kind of whipped up mob hysteria is not normal, particularly when you're dealing with specific individuals. So I feel really sorry for that woman because I think it was ill-judged. I think whenever somebody dies, you shouldn't sort of be overwhelmingly happy about it. But then, of course, I can say that and be a hypocrite because when Margaret Thatcher died, I was celebrating in Brixton. Not massively over the top, but I was just there with others and saying, okay, this is an interesting social phenomenon. Margaret Thatcher, who really did a lot of damage to this country, has passed away and just observing it. There may have been a bit of partying, might have cracked open a couple of beers, but I would be a hypocrite if I said that's awful because I've done that with Margaret Thatcher. And I'm sure many of those people in that video have celebrated somebody dying because they didn't like that person. So, the principle is there that clearly if we think it's permissible to do that, then she shouldn't be losing her livelihood, have to move, have bricks thrown at her and so on. If she apologizes, okay, not no harm done, but you can see a way back for her. She can apologize to people. She can be a bit of a pillar of the community. It can be worked out. I'm sure people smash the windows once every couple of years or whatever. But the idea that you're cancelled, where has this come from? To the extent that you've got trade bodies doing it, it's incredible.
No one is saying go and exert mob justice on anyone who's disrespecting the Queen. I do think the overbearing attitude where we only hear one perspective and nothing else is allowed to be heard does create a bit of a hysterical vibe in the country. And I think that's what they're proactively trying to do. And in a way, I feel like the BBC, politicians, they're all, what they want to see is a moment of sort of collective mass grief. I have to say, I haven't actually seen it yet. So we're constantly seeing footage outside Buckingham Palace. I mean, there are people there, but it's not exactly rammed, right? We might see this. We might well see this next week. I imagine, when there is the moment where the Queen's coffin is there and people get to walk past her. I mean, I have no doubt loads and loads of people will go to that. But I do feel like there is a real top-down attempt to get us all into this collective, whipped up moment. And that does make it difficult for anyone to demur from that. And I do think that is a problem. I do think that's disappointing.